and I think this is going to be useful for you moving forward. Obviously, when you're going to be writing your essays, here I have put in introduction, body, paragraph 1, 2, 3. When you are going to be doing, you do not need the sub-heading of telling the reader, the marker, the assessor, that this is my introduction. The way you start your introduction, that's on its own, it's going to be telling the reader that this is your introductions. And obviously your bodies also. Quite often, as I've mentioned in the past, as you have already seen the questions for integrated, there's quite often there is a number of points being discussed, but I've left it very open in here. So I've said that the reading passage talks, and then you talk a little bit about, or just mention the topic, overall topic, don't go into detail. Then the article supports the thought of. So if it is about global warming, then you say about global warming. If it is about LT diet, then you talk about LT diet. If it is about building new building structures, then you talk about building structures, whatever the general topic is. Then right away you are mentioning about and the lecturer feels, or the lecturer. So if the lecturer agrees, then obviously you're going to be using and. But if the lecturer quite often disagrees, then you can use but. Sometimes they use, maybe once in a while, they might be agreeing with one point and then disagreeing with a number of them. It's depending on the content you will be using it. And then a sentence of the lecturer and the author agrees, disagrees on one point, and disagree on 2 points, or on 2 points disagree, or on all 3 points disagrees, which I have discussed in details in the following essay, or you could say which will be discussed below. Then you go into your body. So paragraph 2 is going to be 1 point, paragraph 3 is going to be another point, and paragraph 4 is going to be another point, and then you wrap it up as per this in each paragraph. So then you can use this sort of guideline. As per this reading, the passage is statement 1 or point 1. The discussion is about this. This point is secondly, the author talks about, and then you give the statements, and then what the lecturer says, you can say what the lecturer says. And then finally, you wrap it up about the whole thing. This is just a template. This is not a guideline that you have to use it. I am trying to do my best to find from TOEFL IBT website any resources that I can find to give you as guidance. As some of the students are contacting me thinking that I have the magic wand and I can tell you in one word, this is the answer. That is not the case. I am giving you all the tools, and then you will be using it, and then you will see which one you feel comfortable, or which one is more suitable with your style of writing. And obviously those of you are completing your homework and you're submitting it to me, and I do my best to give you detailed feedback, which I think the number of homework is getting very smaller and smaller, to my disappointment, but that is up to you. I can't force you. You're adults, not children. So last week we went through 5 steps. Now we're going to go through the next 5. Tips number 6 is be sure to add to the discussions and do not repeat an ideas from the discussion in your response. We'll go into detail. Stick to a few simple verb tenses. Number 8, try to include multiple sentences with more than one clause. Number 9, plan to edit for at least 1 minute. No spell check is available on TOEFL. So you know how we type on our email gives us, and when we type in using any of the Microsoft software, it gives you in that grammar is wrong, spelling is wrong. That has been taken out when you're going to be doing TOEFL, when you're going to be doing live typing in. Number 10 is practice writing at home or at work on whatever is your weakness. And this is why I tend to give you your weakness and emphasize more on the weakness, because positive, you already know your points. Okay, so number 6 is be sure to add to the discussions and do not repeat points and idea from the discussions in WhatsApp. On July 26, 2023, Essential Testing Systems introduced new questions styles on TOEFL IBT, which I've been telling you for the past couple of weeks. Previously, they used to have independent writing, but now it's replaced by academic discussions, and the integrated is still there. So you are familiar with this style. I'm not going to get into detail of this, but just to remind you, it's all about the lecturer making a point during his lecture, and couple of colleagues or couple of students could be from his class that also express their opinion on what the lecturer says, and then your job is to discuss this. So this is their opinion, and you will discuss each of them, and you are allowed to write about your opinion too. So this is the only part that TOEFL IBT allows us to express our opinion, which always the questions asks us, do you agree or disagree? Well, for the integrated, nobody cares about my idea and your idea. So in the example that I just displayed above, because it's too small and you can't read, neither can I. So I have extracted and I'm putting it in here so we can I can read it for you and explain it. In the above example, the professor poses a questions about whether globalization has a positive or negative effect on society. So that's the professor. Brian believed globalization is positive because it brings people and culture closer together, while Alex thinks globalization leads to exploitations of developing countries. When it's time to write, be sure to add to the discussions. Don't just go and write what the professor says, what Alex says, what Brian says, and do not express your contribution to the conversation. So do not just repeat their point by the students or by the colleagues. Look at the sample response below. The points highlighted are additional ideas that contributes to the discussions. In my opinion, globalization is a positive force in the world today. My personal belief is that when nation interacts together, it leads to less suffering. For example, people who suffer from natural catastrophe can import goods and services to help mitigate their losses and recover quickly. Citizens of nations who may be going through war or famine can flee to neighboring countries for shelter. I understand Alex's concern over cultural homogenizations, but I believe she misses another critical point. Much of the food found in grocery stores around the world is imported. Our very diet is due to the international trade partnerships and alliance forged over the last half of the 20th century. So as you can see, not just it talks about what each person gives their opinion, but is contributing about his or her opinion too. International trade and travel are not possible in a world without globalization, which is why I believe it's crucial to maintain our current global policies for a safer world with a higher standard of living. So this was an academic example that I tried to explain using why we need to add but not just write what the question says. Number 7 was to stick to few simple verb tenses. Test takers tend to think that they have to use complicated grammar in TOEFL writing session to earn a high test score. So this is a human being nature. We tend to think that we should say big words, complex words to impress. But what happens is in doing so, we lose the plot. And in this case, what they're telling us is that try to make sure that you understand what verb you are using it. Are you going to be the most common ones in academic discussions should be simple present, simple past, and perfect, present perfect. And I have highlighted all of the verb tense used in my response to the questions about the globalization, and almost all of them are in simple present. For example, let's say that the reading passage states, so just to make sure that you guys don't get the writing in too small, I tend to spread it in multiple slides. In my opinion, globalization is a positive force in the world today. My personal belief is that when nations interact together, it leads to less suffering. For example, people who suffer from natural catastrophe can import goods and services to help mitigate their loss and recover quickly. This could easily get very complicated if we start saying is in here and then change it to past and then change it. So this is why what the example says, stick to simple present, because we are discussing something that is live right now. Citizen of the nation. So I'm not going to go through because it's the same thing that I already did once, but just I have highlighted it and they are in bold just for your sake, that when you are going to be reviewing the PowerPoint presentations, you take note of this as a guide for you moving forward. So far, I haven't had problem, but that is with your submissions for the lovely students who do submit. But I am sharing what TOEFL IBT tells us. Tip number 8 was try to include multiple sentences with more than one clause. According to Michael Gooden at Test Resources, the TOEFL writing e-raters likes writing sample that includes sentences with subordinating and or coordinating conjunctions. I believe that we, and I am guilty of it too, as a student, we do think that we should start our sentence and just go maximum. We may remember to put a comma, or sometimes we don't even look at the punctuations. The way we speak without a pause to let the listeners know that I am continuing with the same concept, or have I finished my concept and move on to a different concept? When we write, we need to do the same thing. Without doing that, writing a sentence that goes into 2-3 lines, it's a warning. So you need to, or writing everything short sentences also not um, nice to do at this level that you guys are at. So here I use two different terminologies: subordinating and coordinating conjunctions. So here I'm giving you an explanation just in case if you don't know. A subordinating conjunction is a word or a phrase that links dependent clause to an independent clause. So we always have in a sentence, in a comment, we have something that is depending on the other, or something that is not depending on the other. That's what I mean in here by depending and independent. So a subordinating conjunction is when you are linking dependent and independent. A coordinating conjunction is when the two elements have equal importance, meaning one is not depending on the other. Check out the table and out for a handy list of both. So when I share this presentation with Mr. Santo, share it with you, I will be including a second file that will give you a list of these words for you. It is not required to include this conjunction in your response, but it will help you craft your sentence with two or more clauses, which will have a positive impact on your score. So it's not important that you must do it, but it is good and handy to practice and do so. I have highlighted once again the sentence from the same globalization to include you when we have multiple clauses. So here I'm not going to read it, but I've highlighted it that where we have used it, and so you see that by using it, it makes a difference. Without it, um, uh, it um, probably will not get you into a high score. Tip number 9 was to take your time to edit. Remember, we said this last week too. Is manage your time. If you plan it, and don't waste your time too much on reading part, because the information is going to be in front of you. Just take some points and then dive into writing your essay, but give yourself at least a minute to do a spell check. Without that, you're going to be falling onto the trap, and that is where I see mistakes in the essays that arrives in my mailbox, that you don't do your spell checks. So do a proofreading, please. Get into the habit, you'll be fine. There are some common examples that quite often are spotted. Number 1 is a spelling. Number 2 is capitalizations and space mistakes, meaning that the beginning of the sentence should be starting with capital letter and it is not. Or a space is not given, space is given in the wrong place. I've seen repeatedly that space should be after the comma, space is given before the comma. Personal areas of weakness are also the use of articles, subjects, verbs, agreements, the verb tense, whether we are mixing up our verbs. Read your response aloud quietly, because sometimes when you're reading it loud, you hear the mistakes, but when we write, we don't see our mistakes. And number 10 was to get feedback. Find someone to proofread. I think this is something that is a good place to say now. By now, we are in week 5. And I see in the Telegram group, I don't know whether you guys have a WhatsApp group or not. I don't want to be there, please. In Telegram, I see that you have started having a good rapport with each other. Pick up, ask if anybody wants to do a proofreading for you. But please, if you are doing proofreading, try to be polite and nice to each other. I strongly suggest that the females should give their essays to their female classmates, and the male should be giving it to the male. Don't cross the lines. If in case something happens, please don't say that the writing teacher said so and now you end up in a mess. We have suggested in the past that if you wanted to create your own personal WhatsApp group, if you are doing it, don't broadcast it to us, and do not please add any of assistant, any of the ed, any of the teachers. None of us should be in your personal groups, please. So now I have a reading article. In an increasingly interconnected world, multiculturalism has become more important than ever. It's more important here for us in Australia. Being able to, but most probably for you guys too, being able to communicate in multiple languages enhances personal, academic, and professional opportunities. It fosters culture understanding and empathy, allowing individuals to connect with people from diverse background and perspective. In educational setting, multilingual students often demonstrate improved cognitive abilities such as problem solving and critical thinking. Research shows that learning multiple languages can enhance memory and concentration, making multilingual individuals more adaptable and better at multitasking. In the workplace, multilingualism is a valuable asset. It opens doors to international businesses opportunities and improves collaboration among colleagues from different regions. Companies that prioritize multilingualism are better equipped to serve a global customer base and navigate cultural nuance effectively. Furthermore, multiculturalism contributes to perceiving culture's heritage and diversity. It encourages the appreciation of various traditions and languages, fostering a sense of belonging and identity in a multicultural society. So this was a reading article from TOEFL IBT website, and because I'm not able to play the lecturer sound live, so here I have tried to put that one as a text. It's not a reading, it's supposed to be a listening. So this is what the lecturers says. While multilingualism has undeniable benefits, there are challenges and potential drawbacks to it. Emphasize an interconnected world. For instance, achieving fluency in multiple languages requires significant time, effort, resources. Not all individuals have equal access to language learning opportunities, which can lead to disparities and feelings of exclusion. And this is so true in the West. We are so lucky as Afghans that we pick up languages so quickly. Compared to the West, they are very sheltered in these balloons that they live, and unless they are forced to go to another country or as part of the schooling if they learn. They don't learn many other languages. In educational setting, the focus on multilingualism may place undue pressure on students, diverting time from other critical academic pursuits. Additionally, cognitive advantages attributes to multiculturalism are not universal, and some studies suggest these benefits might be overstated or dependent on a specific context. In the workplace, while multilingualism is advantageous, it is not always essential. Advances in technologies such as real-time translation tools are minimizing the barrier posed by language differences, reducing the necessity for employees to be multilingual. Furthermore, companies may face increased costs when implementing multilingual policies or training programs. Culturally promoting multilingualism may inadvertently lead to erosion of smaller or less dominant languages as individuals prioritize global or widely spoken languages for economic and social benefits. These shifts could undermine the preservations of linguistic diversity rather than enhancing it. So here I have given you a sample essay. This essay has 254 word count, and the essay is called just a pass mark, a 2.5. I would like you to read the essay at your own time. I'm not going to read it because I think we are going to be running out of time and I don't want to bore you too. I also going to ask you something else in a couple of minutes when I come back live to you, and I have I can see in your contributions. So that this essay example is, as I said, 2.5 out of 5. And the next essay is a much better, a 4.8, nearly full score with a count of 299 words. So please do read it. And I think this goes on to the next slide. So I've put it into 2 slides rather than putting it one. So you will be able to read it yourself. Now, what is for your homework? I'm going to be sharing a file with you, and you're going to be reading the content. And once you have read the content, you're going to be deciding to do a academic discussion based on that, and you're going to be sending it to me by email the way you normally do, and the word limit is 100 to 150 words, and I will then give you feedback. But just remember that is also important that you start timing yourself. Try to finish. We are in week 5. By now, I think you, especially for the academic discussions essay, I think you will be able to do it. Just give yourself 10 minutes. If you need more, it's okay, do it, but be honest with yourself and then let me know also how long did it take you. If you plan it, give yourself a minute for a plan. You should be fine. Remember, when you're going to be doing it, have the reading in front of you so your time is not wasted, and you should be able to do very well. So with that, actually I've put it in here in the next slides. The professor and the 2 points are in front of you on this slide, so I don't have to even travel myself on you, and you will be able to do this. So I take my word back. I'm not going to be sending you. It's on this slide, and I'll come back to you live to see if you are any questions?